MTV in the 2000s was a weird and wild time that flooded the channel with more offbeat programs, reality shows, and basically anything but sticking to their name of music television. While we have taken a deep dive a few times before looking into some of these programs, we still have barely scratched the surface of what was actually playing on MTV during this period. Today, we are going back into this often poked fun at era to understand more about the programs that either made this an iconic time for the network that you remember fondly, or an awful change in direction that made you wish MTV would go back to their roots. Let's take a look at the wacky side of MTV in the 2000s. I swear nothing is funnier than you and your friend trying to make each other laugh. Specifically when you probably shouldn't be. But in this case, it's not about trying not to laugh, it's about just trying to be as quiet as possible. Silent Library is a game show.
This is not a game show.
Oh, okay, my bad. Silent Library is not a game show, I guess, that puts the contestants into a library setting where, get this, they have to be silent. So at least the name fits. But it's not as easy as it sounds, as the group of 6 contestants are made to perform challenges that are designed to cause some sort of reaction that they all have to do their best to handle, not letting get out of hand, so that they can pass said challenges. It's a simple enough premise that works thanks to the goofiness of the setup, the silliness between the group playing the game, and the ridiculous challenges that they face. Essentially, the 6 players sit at a table and quickly scramble to claim a face-down card that once they flip over, reveals who all is safe and who will be facing the challenge, or as the show can refer to it, the punishment. Usually, 5 of the cards are marked safe, with one of them having a skull and crossbones on it to label who is not safe. Whatever the punishment is, all the players, along with the main person facing the challenge, all have to do it as quietly as possible, as on screen we see a noise meter to show off how well, or in most cases, not so well, they are making it through the punishments to clear each round. Every challenge in each round they clear without being too loud, the more money that they win. There are 4 rounds in a typical episode, as they can earn 300 per challenge in the first round, 400 for each in the second, 800 for each in the third, and if they clear the final challenge in the 4th round, they get $1,000, making the grand total that they could earn in an episode $5,500 that the 6 players would then split at the end. The challenges were the main selling point of why you'd watch, as they could be silly, or they could cause you to gag, or often just cause you some level of pain.
The contestant must have his crotch slapped by a hard salami for 30 seconds.
You could be playing a harmonica stuck in a fish's mouth, or stopping a greased up bike tire from spinning with your bare stomach, or even this. Oh, and you can't forget the creator of the challenge's barely disguised fetish. Most times the challenges were pretty creative, and I appreciate the level of craftsmanship and ingenuity to set them up, but regardless of the challenges, you would need to be silent the whole time, which means from the moment you're rushing to claim your card until the end of the game, your noise level is being monitored. Sometimes you don't get to see every single challenge performed on the show, as it was cut for time or cut for probably just not being as interesting or fun as the other ones performed. So there would be times where you can see that the group has earned some more money without fully having seen the challenge they had to do. As the show would start garnering an audience, it wouldn't be just random groups of friends participating in the game. It would start becoming celebrities, athletes, and, you know, to stick to the theme of it being on MTV, musicians. So one episode you could have the cast of Jersey Shore playing, while another could have Justin Bieber, All Time Low, 303, or Never Shout Never.
Never shout never.
Jeez, when's the last time you heard the name Never Shout Never? That's a throwback, and I'm really showing my age here. This is gonna be such a stupid bit. Okay, I don't have like a professional ukulele. I only have this Pokemon ukulele. I'm in trouble, I'm an addict, I'm addicted to this girl, she's got something tied in a knot, and my stomach in a whirl. Okay, I have no idea how close I got to the lyrics, but if I'm like 50% right, that's kind of scary. At least when it came to any celebrities being on the show, they would be playing to win money for charity, so that's cool. The show was hosted by Zero Kazama, a guy whose glare will make you want to make sure you don't make a peep while playing the game.
Silence. Begin.
He was someone who went to Los Angeles in the mid-2000s to pursue a career in acting and stunt work, and through this, he ended up becoming the host of Silent Library. Actually, Zero's story is a wild read to learn about his life, his hardships with mental health, the painful reality of stunt work, and the inspiring finding of purpose through traveling and basically living life on the road as a filmmaker, and you can see a lot of his work on YouTube. Silent Library always kind of felt like it was a version of Jackass that you can just kind of do at home. You know, just with a lot less painful consequences, but it'll still result in laughter all around. Also, I love the added in tension of the others in the library who just give glares to look annoyed as if the players are being too loud. It makes the show so much funnier for it. Silent Library just barely made it into the 2000s as it premiered on June 15th, 2009, but from there it would run for a total of 4 seasons before being canceled by the end of 2011.
Silence. Continue.
It was actually created in the first place after taking inspiration from the Japanese show Downtown Nogaki no Tsukaya Arahende, and I'm so sorry if I butchered that, but it was based on one of that variety show's segments being based on performing challenges and not laughing. But as for Silent Library, I think with how small but fun of a production this show is, it would be easy to see it come back in a new way. Many people remember this show, and we've seen other content creators do their own versions of Silent Library, so even bringing it back as a small online production somehow could be easily doable. I think the series could have plenty of guests from the entertainment world beyond it, whether they be actors, online creators, musicians, or just a random group of friends just like the show started out as. I don't know. Just a thought. But genuinely, I would be down for helping to create and produce a comeback for this show properly. I guess just let me know if you tune in to watch.
I see no reason to punish you further.
Thanks for joining us.
So what happens when MTV produces a scripted comedy series? Things tend to get hard. Well, at least for RJ Berger, they do.
Our objective is clear. Get people to like us.
Created by David Katzenberg and Seth Grahame-Smith, The Hard Times of RJ Berger is a series about your average nerdy-looking high schooler who starts having his high school experience change after an incident he has exposes something that he has that isn't so average. Yeah, you get it. Outside of that initial setup, what you'll find is the typical coming-of-age high school story that is heavily influenced at the time from the popularity of films like Superbad or anything coming from Judd Apatow at the time. So that basically means it was just raunchier than your average high school coming-of-age story. I mean, if you just take the characters, the roles they play, and their personalities, it's really not reinventing the wheel here. RJ is this more nerdy character who struggles with social interactions as he goes through that awkward transitioning point in your teenage years. RJ is of course just what he goes by, it's not his actual name, but yeah, okay, if my name was Richard Jr. Berger, I'd just go by RJ as well. The full name sounds like a Wendy's food item. His friend group has 2 people in it, with Miles here vlogging everything that he does and focused on just being popular in school and figuring out how to achieve that higher status however he can, and then there's Lily, who's maybe less of a friend and more of an obsessive stalker, as she's a bit more alt and offbeat with her looks and attitude, and has that not-so-secret crush on our main character of RJ. Do you think this shirt gives that away? Aside from that, there is the popular cheerleader Jenny, who RJ has a crush on, and is the main driving force for RJ's actions throughout the series. And with that, there is of course her boyfriend at the start of the series, Max, a mean school jock that basically becomes RJ's rival as they constantly clash. All this to say that it really does feel like so many other things from around its time in the 2000s.
What's the his apps at school?
Okay, this one did premiere in 2010, but the short that it's based off of was from 2009, so it fits here on the list. I mean, who really cares? I make up the rules for these dumb videos anyway. As for the main show itself, it would run for 2 seasons with 24 episodes in total. Things here, right from the start, are extremely absurd. All of how it's presented comes off as someone telling you over-the-top exaggerated stories that there is no way you'd believe, but the person telling it to you sounds like they believe their own BS that they're saying. Sure, the high school experience can be a very ridiculous and odd time in your life, but let's mention just a handful of things that happen in the series here. RJ's burger gets exposed to everyone in his life. Everyone in the series is overly horny, specifically characters like RJ's parents, and speaking of them, they have a divorce and RJ's guidance counselor slash gym teacher starts dating his mom. Miles hooks up with a teacher and went fishing because he catches some crabs, but you know, since he took advantage of a drunk girl at a party once, I don't really feel bad for him about the whole crabs thing. And then, spoilers, there's the series ending on a cliffhanger about RJ possibly being the father of his friend Lily's baby after he slept with her out of pity after she she was hit by a bus earlier in the series.
Want me to email you the clip after school? Yes, please.
And then the show was canceled. There is no season 3. But maybe that's actually a good thing, as I think season 2 just went a little too over the rails compared to what season 1 did. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't really think there's any characters to, root for or get behind in this series. None of them are likable. Not even the titular character of RJ. They all just kinda suck. The one thing that I could say was really cool, especially going back now and appreciating it, were these animated segments that would come up in each episode to emphasize a story being told that actually always played around with different art styles and types of animation that made it feel refreshing when they would pop up. They were visually interesting and were nicely blended into the moments that they happened. The original concept for the series comes from a short film from the series creators called The Tale of RJ, where RJ was played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, tying more into the concept having inspirations from Superbad. And with this being a time in MTV's history where more directional changes were being made in the efforts of trying to save the network from declining viewership, all while reality TV was mainly taking over, MTV wanted to try their hand at producing scripted comedy/drama shows, calling it an important piece of the puzzle to not homogenize all that they create.
Just like this.
The 2010s for MTV did tend to get more experimental, so maybe we look into that sometime. One of the show's creators, Seth Grahame-Smith, was quoted saying this: "But it very much so is about that. I vividly remember when this show was airing on MTV, and while the first season did have a lot of shock value for its teenage viewership to go, oh, wow, that's crazy, the second season continues amping up the shocks and twists, and whew, it sure just gets ridiculous.
I don't think I can be your homie anymore.
Respect.
At the end of the day, the show just boils down into one big dick joke. Back in 2010, when this was coming out alongside stuff like The Jersey Shore, yeah, it was fun as a teenager to make the most baseline humor you can about this stuff. The trashiness of what MTV was creating then was a fun time. But going back and watching something like RJ Berger really makes you understand why something like The Jersey Shore is still so beloved and iconic today. RJ Berger felt like it was trying to fit in, I guess in a way paralleling what was happening in the show, but it was trying too hard. The dialogue feels mostly unnatural of how high schoolers would speak, especially around this time, and hey, I would know, I was one of them. But Jersey Shore excelled with the more trashy vibes because it was a reality show featuring interesting people who actually did live and interact in a certain way. It was shocking because it felt real enough, well, as real as you could get for reality TV, but there was some sort of authentic charm that it had. That's not to say that RJ Berger couldn't have had that, but it just turns into trying to be everything else that worked in the past, rather than being its own thing.
RJ, you don't gotta be a gorilla.
It felt like taking Superbad, The In-Betweeners, Skins, stuff like that, and mashing them all together with the added idea of, what if this nerd had a Big Johnson? The most credit I can give is that while it still heavily leans into all the tropes you'd expect to be there in a show like this, it does try to give you shock value in a surreal way of what's happening on screen from the situations our cast of characters get into. At the end of the day, RJ Berger didn't really age that well. The dialogue feels written by whoever was writing the dialogue for Kimiko's character in the final season of The Boys. It's bad, it's cringy, and it really puts you off from liking really any of the characters. And I don't say that from today's standards and looking back, I mean for 2010 standards as well. It's pretty awful, and I would have had to have been ignorant to it all because I was a teenager at the time. So saying explicit raunchy stuff in every sentence was probably the funniest thing ever, where it made you feel more grown up because you're watching it.
Anytime, any place, any orifice.
Whatever the case may be, RJ Berger could have broken the mold to become something more than it was. But what it really was just one big nothing burger. You see what I did? I bet you will. A show set out to prove that people will do just about anything for money. Who would do that? Now, if it's not obvious, I've been collecting trading cards ever since I was a kid. There really is just no better feeling than ripping open a pack and pulling something shiny or rare. And thanks to Arena Club, you can do that online. Arena Club offers digital packs that contain real graded cards inside of them. You rip open a pack and you get a fun instant reveal of what you pulled. In fact, I want to open one right now. This one right here is a $250 pack. Let's see what we get inside. Oh, okay, alright, we got the shiny Charizard VMAX from Shining Fates. This is a really cool card, I just think it looks sick, and look at that. It's actually worth over $250. So hey, not bad. What's nice is Arena Club right after will send you an offer to buy that card back from you based on fair market value. Here they are offering me $274 for this card, and that's incredible. I now have the option to hold on to this card in my showroom and show it off, or I can go ahead and auction it off on their website, or I could just sell it back to Arena Club, or even physically get the card sent to me. Packs on Arena Club start at just $25, with each tier of packs having grails in them worth thousands. There is also no hidden mystery here of what you could pull, as you can see what can be pulled and the odds of pulling them from these different packs before you even open them. Arena Club also does specialty pack drops that are pretty cool, like ones that are just featuring Charizard cards, or even for example these Picasso Night packs. There's lots of pretty cards to pull in there. All of these drops run for 48 hours or until they completely sell out, and sometimes they do that in minutes. But you could grab 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/fringe and entering in my special code FRINGE. And I want to give a big thank you to Arena Club for sponsoring this video.
$10 per wedgie, how's that? Okay.
The setup for the show is very simple. Our host would be with a person in front of a larger group of people surrounding them as they introduce some sort of challenge being offered for a certain amount of money. If the money is too low to entice the person to do the challenge, the money offer starts going up until that person thinks it's fair. And if they don't, the offer extends to anyone in the crowd who would be willing to take that same amount of money or do it for less. Obviously, if the challenge was completed, the contestant would win the agreed upon money. But if they failed to complete exactly what the challenge was, then they don't win anything. That is, unless money from the crowd is given to the pity jar, then at least they win something, I guess. Some of the challenges, or dares, could be as simple and whatever as someone getting drawn on with permanent markers, all the way to licking the bottom of your own feet after walking around New York City barefoot and stepping in puddles containing unknown diseases. Was it really worth the $200, Janelle? Just seeing how this show is hosted and edited, it really feels just like how a YouTube video doing the same thing would be put together. Heck, it's kind of what MrBeast has done, and I am sure there are more examples of that online in general, but what if this concept was applied to real life outside of a reality game show? I'm not talking about dramatized versions of this concept like we've seen with the movie Nerve from 2015, or like in the show Black Mirror. But here's the thing, we literally don't have to imagine. That actually exists now, and I'm not even exaggerating. There are several websites, ones that I will not name, that put up monetary bounties for people to claim if they complete the certain dare attached to it. Things, naturally, aren't going so well for this as you could have assumed. Why don't we as humans ever listen to the obvious warnings of what we shouldn't do as a society? Maybe why it feels so much like videos you'd see on YouTube is because it originally started out as an internet series in April of 2000 that was about 5 minutes long an episode that featured the same premise we would see in the actual show proper. The series was fully brought to MTV by Morgan Spurlock, the person behind the Super Size Me documentary, and it premiered on the network in June of 2002 and would end up only lasting for 11 episodes until it ended in August of the same year. While there is an interest for many people willing to watch people debase themselves for random amounts of money, the shtick of it gets pretty old pretty fast. Where Jackass succeeds in the enjoyment of watching people do disgusting or painful things is that everyone is doing it for the love of the game, and they're all friends messing with each other. Here in this show, you just start feeling bad for some random person having to go around and ask for wedgies from people in order to get a couple $100.
You get money for that wedgie.
It feels different, you know? Do you think that anyone who was ever on the show actually regrets being on it? Like, sure, maybe $200 did go a lot further back in 2002, but are you willing to sit nude in public and let strangers pour whatever they want on top of you for that money? Probably not. This show is definitely a product of its time, and we should keep it that way. Don't do stupid dares for people with money's enjoyment. You know, unless it's something easy like eating a deep fried sneaker.
Fried sneaker.
Say hi to Taylor.
Hi?
I'm stud.
I didn't ask. MTV's Wanna Come In joins the long list of ridiculous reality shows right up there with stuff like Room Raiders and Next. The overall premise of how things are set up here is having someone who is labeled as a stud that ends up coaching a nerdier type of dude they label as a dud to get through a date in hopes that by the end of it, that the woman says the magic words to the dud, "Wanna come in." But it's not as simple as that, as aside from challenges that come up for the dud to get through that make it hard for the date to go well, they also can't reveal to the woman that the dud is being coached. And on top of all all that, it's a competition against another stud and dud duo, and whichever dud gets the invite by the end of it all wins it for their team. For how an episode operates, we start off with the studs going over to the duds' houses to meet them, get to understand who they are, and begin teaching them the basics of how to act on a date with a woman. The duds get to have an introduction to the girls they are going to be seeing on their dates, and even get the chance to call them on the phone to properly ask them out. Ooh, how gentlemanlike.
I guess I'll,
Whew, that was painful. Almost as painful as the time I was supposed to meet up with the popular kids from school at the movie theater to go see Avatar, but they didn't respond to my text messages and didn't show up, so I saw the movie by myself, and to this day it still haunts me and affects me even though I pretend it doesn't. Anyway, from here, the studs start styling the duds, making sure they are looking their best for their dates, and when it comes time for the dates, the studs give the duds an earpiece to directly coach them during the dates, as they can see everything going on the whole time. They get to go to what is called the stud pad, so that both studs can monitor each of the dates as they compete to prove that they have the best dud, or something. The date includes a limousine pickup and a nice dinner somewhere. It's nice for MTV, you know, to front the bill on all this and set it up, because some of these duds really just don't have the slightest clue about what to do when it comes to interacting with a woman.
I'm gonna give you some accessories, no bling bling.
Open the door. Don't say nothing.
But like I was saying, this isn't just about dating, it's also a competition. As the dates go on, challenges start getting introduced where cash prizes are all on the line here. Like this one where for $200, the dud must slurp up something off their plate using a straw. So these type of moments are meant to become a probable turnoff for the woman in the efforts of making it hard for her to say wanna come in by the end of it. Now, sometimes the dud would try and work it into the moment in a clever way, hoping to make it cute, quirky, or funny, or sometimes the dud just awkwardly does the challenge just to do it, or third option, completely fails to do it at all, resulting in no money being made. The challenges would ramp up in difficulty throughout the date, making it harder to pull them off, but hey, you'd at least be hired offer amounts of money to earn because of it. Then it becomes the big moment of the episode. The date's over, the duds bring them back as they hopefully get asked those 3 little words, or just stand there awkwardly as we get to cringe all about it. Whether it's from the date not going well, or from the duds shooting themselves in the foot.
Alright, take care.
Look, at the end of the day, this show is just as silly as the other reality shows here on the network. A lot of it's all staged, there's some incredibly corny dialogue, but you know what? I enjoy cringing at things. I am Jordan Cringe, after all. Almost as cringy as the time I was supposed to meet up with the popular kids from school at the movie theater to go see Avatar. I wonder which number is higher for Nick Cannon, how many kids he has or how many TV shows he's had. Nick Cannon was all over anything Viacom owned in the 2000s, from being all over Nickelodeon when he was younger and producing programs for it as he got older, to being an adult and not only having Wild 'N Out on MTV, a massive rap comedy improv game show that we already talked about in this other MTV video here, but he had another sketch comedy series called Short Circuitz. Mainly we would see skits that would parody pop culture at the time, with the most famous bits from the show that may jog your memory of it being the Judge Modalis skit that had Cat Williams pretending to be one of those daytime TV judges.
Everybody ready? Get ready. Wait for my finger now. Bam!
Were these judges even real, or was it all just reality TV? Was Judge Judy even a real judge? Huh. Okay, well, she was a real judge before the show. Whew, I almost thought everything I knew was a lie. The series would also poke fun at rappers, poke fun at MTV's other programs like Next, Yo Mama, and Scarred. They turned Ice-T into Ice-TiVo. George Bush clapped back at Kanye. There was definitely a lot going on here, and going back and rewatching some of these has brought back a lot of forgotten memories that I've had locked away in my brain. But I can also now see that I remember nearly all of it because, well, there really isn't a lot here. This was like one of the shortest lived shows on MTV, only lasting a total of 8 episodes across 2 seasons. The first season is literally 3 episodes long, and then at that point it was technically canceled because the ratings weren't great. But like, they must have been really bad for MTV to pull the plug on it that fast. I guess some things turned around behind the scenes because just around 2 months later, the series would come back with season 2 and have it come out with new episodes of Wild 'N Out for what was known as the Nick Cannon Power Hour. Who does he think he is? These guys guys. It would make sense to have Short Circuitz basically attached to the success of Wild 'N Out, thanks to it having the same cast of characters all acting in the bits. In the show's second season, they wanted viewer participation, and by that I mean having people submit their own skits that could potentially be on the show. Launched in June of 2007, the Short Circuitz site became a hub for those wanting to participate to submit their videos at. These could consist of parodies making fun of pop culture at the time, so stuff like spoofing TV shows or music videos and more would all fit that. If what you submitted was picked to be on the show, it would be included in the episode, and on top of that, you would be paid $1,000. But while this was cool and everything, what's odd is that season 2 was mostly recycled content from season 1, minus some new sketches thrown in there. It seemed like overall there was a fun plan for this show, but something behind the scenes either fell apart, or the community engagement for the second season wasn't great, or heck, maybe Nick Cannon was just too busy to spend time producing the show into what it could have been. But luckily, this show mainly featured people who were on Wild 'N Out anyway, so I guess this not working out is no harm, no foul. All those people basically still had work. MTV was trying to be forward-thinking about the online space and trying to find new ways to incorporate it into their cable space. Ugh, would that even be what you call it? It didn't roll off the tongue right. Cable space?
But Kanye, if you want beef, you got beef.
President of Entertainment for MTV Network's music group at the time, Brian Graydon, stated, "With YoMama.tv and ShortCircuitz.mtv.com, we're giving our viewers a chance to see themselves on air and commune with other fans who share a passion for dissing others, or creating parodies of the most seminal moments in pop culture today. The parallel online and on-air experience reflects our unique ability to use the combined power of our TV brand and digital assets to create one unified experience that ultimately drives deeper engagement with the MTV brand and its franchises." Despite not lasting a long time, there was clearly an early attempt here to be aware and a part of the growing online space at the time, where online video sharing platforms were in their early days and not anywhere close to how well integrated into society and adopted by the masses as they are today. So seeing stuff like that is such a cool time capsule, and a look back to a time that just doesn't exist anymore, but somehow feels so visceral if you lived through this time.
Thanks for joining us.
Speaking of this earlier time in online media, there was a program that came directly from the online space and made it to television, albeit it was short-lived.
Suck it, butt muscles.
If you were on the interwebs in the 2000s, then you definitely should recognize the name College Humor. Originally starting out as a website created in 1999 to post funny stuff in relation to what's going on in college, relatable stuff to that experience at the time, and whatever fun stuff was circulating around in emails between the students, College Humor would quickly grow into the digital video space. Not only with how you may remember them from when YouTube would be a massive platform for them, but did you know that Vimeo was created by two people who worked for College Humor, as it originally was just a little side project meant to be this add-on spin-off in relation to what College Humor was? Obviously, Vimeo is completely different than just that now, but it's kinda crazy to think about. Anyway, as things really got going for College Humor, more and more skits and well-known series would garner some big attention as this space grew. Probably one of their most popular series would be Jake and Amir, a series that wasn't meant to ever be a series but became one because of the genuine friendship between Jake and Amir and how they played off of each other in order to just make each other laugh, doing whatever they found hilarious. There's honestly so much history when it comes to College Humor to document, from where they started to where they are now and being known as Dropout, so maybe that's a whole separate video another time all on its own.
Whoa, free tacos!
Who said anything about free?
But to tie it all into MTV, in late 2008, the network picked up a scripted sitcom concept from College Humor that would focus on an exaggerated look into the people working at the College Humor office, which basically just was a more fleshed out and developed version of College Humor's already existing digital short show called Hardly Working. While the series would still be scripted and everyone is playing a more overemphasized version of themselves and their personalities, just now with an expanded bit of time to do so instead of being contained within 2-minute shorts, would it still work? Is there enough of an interest to see the jump to cable being a good thing? Would it still feel like what made their style of videos work in the first place? Or would it change it all completely? Am I asking too many questions? Maybe one day we'll get that answer.
I know.
But as far as the show goes, it really did end up feeling the same. The production level of everything here still felt like a group of people shooting over the top and silly workplace scenarios by themselves in their office, rather than it being some large or more professional feeling production. That's a good thing. The charm of the shorts came from the lower budget DIY feeling setup, and I think that still translates well. Clearly there was some more influence like mockumentary style shows from the time like The Office Office, but this wasn't something that was parodying that in the slightest. It really all just feels like a bunch of dumb college students somehow figuring out how to run a website for dumb college students. And I say dumb endearingly. This fictionalized version of what it's like for this group of people who work at College Humor may not be anything too special on paper, but there is some level of nostalgia that I do feel for something like this strictly because of College Humor coming from the online space, and even more specifically from how I remember it from back in the day, the viral videos that they created and I watched on YouTube. Now, this series on MTV didn't last that long, like at all, coming in at a total of 6 episodes making up a whole season, but I think the biggest takeaway from watching it versus watching what the hardly working shorts were was that in taking something like a short form concept and building it into a full-on 22-minute series, it may not translate 100% well and feel like the bits are being stretched out to fit the runtime. It's not horrible, it doesn't necessarily feel too dated, but there isn't much here that you would find that you wouldn't get better with what they just posted directly online. Even though this wasn't a long-lasting series, the working relationship between College Humor and MTV would still technically continue. For a bit. Several months after the College Humor show came to an end, a show called Pranked would end up premiering later on in 2009 that would be hosted by College Humor members Amir and Streeter. Not to be confused with the other classic MTV series Punk'd, Pranked was basically what MTV always dreamed of doing, having a series where hosts just react to viral clips, make a couple of jokes, and be designed to keep you tuned in with your brain turned off. This would be one of MTV's entries into the react slop category of TV shows, with their most infamous entry into this genre being Ridiculousness for how it really became the only show they would, well, show. Pranked surprisingly ended up lasting a good little bit on the air. Over the course of 5 seasons, there were 54 episodes of Amir and Streeter reacting and going over the biggest pranks posted to the internet. MTV stated, "The new show for the Thursday night block is Pranked, a 30-minute program that showcases the best pranks ever caught on camera and posted online." Known for their 7-part prank war, which has received over 5 million views online, hosts collegehumor.com Streeter Seidel and Amir Blumenfeld provide commentary during each episode. The internet celebrities bring their humor to television as viewers watch homemade pranks that are engineered, executed, and filmed by kids and normal everyday people with no help from producers, professional editors, or cameramen. When it comes to silly humor, MTV curates the best online pranks and couples it with the best comedic commentary. Now, this ended up being one of those shows where there's barely any footage online to prove its existence. But thank God a handful of people decided to record some of this at the time and upload it online. How did they record it? With their phones pointed at the TV, just the way it was meant to be watched. Someone put these in the Criterion collection. Right there, right on the shelf between Howard Hawks' His Girl Friday and Akira Kurosawa's 7 Samurai. Ah, perfect. Do you remember that time on YouTube where pranksters were doing those horrifying and messed up social experiments on people? No, I don't mean Mommy Makeout Day.
And it's Mommy Makeout Day.
I mean stuff like this. Well, what if that was a TV show? Oof.
Now let me warn you that what you are about to see is not fabricated.
Room 401 was the latest let's mess with people and see how they react type of show that MTV had Ashton Kutcher overseeing. You'd think that after the success of Punk'd that this would be a great thing for the network, but if you remember from my last MTV video that after the incident that happened to what was going to be called harassment before being retooled into Punk'd, that maybe horrifying messed up pranks on regular people may not be such a great idea. To recap the incident that happened, a couple was pranked with finding a dead body at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas, but the emotional distress from this resulted in a $10 million lawsuit against Ashton Kutcher, MTV, and the hotel. But what the heck, let's figure out how to do it again, right? The concept here has unsuspecting people put into the middle of these set-up horror-like pranks and situations that they then react to in the moment, and boom, that's your show. The series' name, Room 401, stems from the room number where Harry Houdini died at Detroit's Grace Hospital. Mixed in with all of the messed up and horrifying situations were also setups that pay homage to Houdini's acts, so it was all tied back into that. Now, instead of Ashton hosting this show like he was doing with Punk'd, we would have Jared Padalecki, who at the time in 2007, when this show was coming out, was getting pretty popular for his role as Sam Winchester in Supernatural. So again, at least that can kind of fit into the branding of this as well. Each episode would have 4 major setups in it. Some of these would be more illusion-based just to mess with people's minds, while the others would be just a whole lot more messed up. MTV's press release on the series read, "Room 401 is a mind-blowing journey through the weird and shocking world of illusion. Unsuspecting victims are swept into the middle of a real-life horror movie that's playing out right in front of their eyes. From the dead rising from their grave, to messy chainsaw mishaps, to electrifying salon encounters, these onlookers won't believe what they're seeing. Or will they? Sure, scarring people for life. Thanks, MTV. At least you let people cleanse their palates with the show that would come on after it. Ah, yeah, now I can see people getting scarred in a whole different way." Continuing on with what MTV was saying, Room 401 features some of the most talented up-and-coming illusionists in the world. They'll make you scream, squirm, jump, and yes, even laugh. And what you see is exactly what happened. There are no digital effects employed or altered images shown. What happens inside Room 401 unfolds live, and while the term reality may be loosely defined, how the onlookers react is not fabricated. What's happening seems all too real in that particular moment. Look, Chris Angel's show said the same thing, and do you really think he ripped this woman in half?
Pull!
I am a mind freak. I am a mind freak.
Mind freak style.
Like, that's not even the same lady that laid down on the bench. Continuing with that, some of the stuff here in Room 401 just feels like what you would see on Chris Angel Mind Freak, only maybe just a little bit more gory. Maybe we take a look at some Chris Angel stuff here in the future. That could be fun. But despite there being some cool practical effects and it being fun seeing how they would try to pull off these pranks, there really isn't that much substance here that feels like we can make a real long-lasting show out of this. When I say that, I mean specifically from the involvement of the random person or people that are getting pranked, as they usually just offer the generic response most people would have to seeing messed up things like this, or come off more slightly forced to have more over-the-top reactions and responses, almost as if the producer nudged them to do so. Maybe from the press release with them calling out reality TV, it could have just been a Freudian slip on how the show was actually being done. Room 401 didn't end up lasting too long, just a total of 8 episodes making up one season. Maybe MTV realized that continuing to mess with the average person, especially in these ways, could just bring more trouble than it's all worth. Or, you know, maybe no one tuned in to watch the show. It was listed, just like many other shows, as being canceled for low ratings, so, you know, take that as you will. That could be the truth, that could be a lie. YouTubers in the mid-2010s probably should have taken the show as an example of what not to do, but of course, virality, it's a hell of a drug. My drug of choice is buying unnecessary things to fill a void in my heart. Like, look at this MTV Hot Wheels car. Did I need this? No. Is it now a tax write-off? You bet. I'm just kidding. Hey, come here. I don't know if you know this, but 50 Cent, he's somewhat of a businessman.
None of those other guys would do that.
50 Cent, aside from his rap career at the time, was also spreading his wings, creating new business ventures, and even producing TV shows. One of the shows ended up being a reality series for MTV that was basically kind of like The Apprentice, taking the format of how that show worked and applying it here with 50 Cent hosting it, as we follow 14 contestants from all over the country, all with different backgrounds, that are split up between 2 teams, Team Money and Team Power, as they compete in challenges in order for one winner in the end receiving $100,000 directly from 50 Cent in order to help them start up whatever business venture they are aspiring for. Man, I should have been on this show. My biggest aspiration in life has always been to get $100,000 from 50 Cent specifically. My second biggest aspiration in life is to figure out who the heck that is. One of the big selling points of this was to figure out whether book smarts or street smarts help you make it to the top. The challenges were basically designed to see how teamwork and running a smooth operation can go along with the dedication of doing what it takes to make it as a mogul. While the losing team could be put on the chopping block for who will get sent home, all the while done in a mafioso type of setting and way, the winning team ends up getting some sort of reward for their efforts, getting a taste of the rich life.
Here I am, this white Georgia cracker. Yo, my name is Nathan and I'm able to eat barbecue with 50 Cent. I am white and I ain't black. It's pretty awesome.
Most of the 14 people here have an interesting personality that can make things fun, a bit unserious, or just plain cringy. But I feel like our attachment to them all is not really there as much as we'd get in other similar shows that are set up like this. But at least a few of them left some memorable impressions for how they came across in the series, or for even how they left the show. Imagine being on the show, winning the episode's challenge, and then still getting booted from the series because 50 Cent himself didn't believe you were in this for the right reasons. 2000's. Well, that's what happened to Nathan in episode 2. But to be fair, 50 warned them all that if he isn't feeling you for whatever reason, he's going to cut you from the show. In fact, later on in the series, another person, Musso, was asked to leave the show all the way in episode 7, but that was over Musso's anger issues. At least Rebecca in episode 4 realized that she didn't have to, or quite frankly, didn't want to be there. But you know who did really want to be there? 50 himself, because he honestly seems like he's having a really fun time here. I mean, just look at that smile. It's so comforting for some reason. The series came out towards the end of 2008, and with it being something 50 was doing, there was another reason for the show to exist, as it was technically a vessel to bring awareness to his book, The 50th Law, that he ended up writing with author Robert Greene, that focuses on the principle of fearlessness as the ultimate key to power and success. So essentially, this apprentice-like show is really just a thing to emphasize this power and success, as it all is supposed to act as some sort of guide to entrepreneurs, leaders, and anyone seeking strategic power. Sorry, yeah, that last part was actually a direct quote. I didn't have time to read the book before I made this video. Sue me! Besides, I was too busy reading Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You. What? It's a really good manga.
You have an important decision to make.
50 Cent's The Money and the Power only lasted for one season, again, because it was really a visual companion to his book. But for what it wasn't the worst reality show. I appreciate the appearance of other members of G-Unit, Lloyd Banks and Tony Yayo, being on the show as judges to oversee the challenges along with other guests from the music space. At its worst, it's just a nothing advertisement show. At its best, it's a ripoff of another popular show that still ended in someone getting a nice chunk of change from 50 Cent.
Get the out of here. You've been dropped.
Remember back when Twilight came out and everyone either wanted to parody it or just be it? MTV ended up teaming with Verizon Wireless, and that'll be important later, to create a brand new series to cash in on the vampire hype of the time, with that materializing in Veilmont. There is a school in the series called Veilmont University that is secretly home to another school within it that is specifically for vampires to learn how to be integrated into society without the bloodlust causing them to want to attack humans to feed off them. Our main character that we follow, Sophie, is heading to Veilmont University to uncover the secrets that this place has because of the disappearance of her brother. Every episode would introduce more information or clues for solving the mysteries that this school and its students hide, doing so mainly through the vessel of a cell phone. Okay, so the cool and interesting thing here is how the series premiered on TV, how it released online, and the overall promotion of it. So Veilmont isn't your ordinary series, as it was set to have a limited 12-episode run on TV and then release the remaining 23 episodes online, but on top of that, there was a full-on ARG, an alternate reality game that was attached to the project in order to get people not only more interested in the series, but possibly feel more a part of it themselves. Oh, and have I mentioned that these episodes are like 2.5 minutes long? That's like a Quibi. 2 people got that joke. They're laughing. You hear them? They're laughing. So these were set to be 35 short-form pieces of a series that would equal out into a full season of a show. The plan was to release the first 12 episodes on TV, having them attached to episodes of The Hills and The City in order to get a bunch of eyes from those shows as audiences to get people hooked onto the story and hopefully continue on with the rest of the series for episode 13 and beyond online. They specifically mapped out the story of Veilmont to fit this mold, making sure that episode 12 leaves you on a serious cliffhanger after sinking its teeth into you. The ARG elements to it all would start off before the series would officially start premiering in September of 2009, with Brent Friedman, one of the co-creators of Electric Farm Entertainment, the main company behind the production, saying, "It began as a simple missing student story at Veilmont, with various characters starting a discussion on Twitter, along with the police investigator conducting interviews on the series' characters. Then when the student's body was found, the case was called a homicide, and the victim's next of kin was sought. Intrepid fans dug up clues buried online and presented them to the investigator, which is where the series actually begins, with the student's sister asked to identify the body. On top of this, through the VU site, Twitter, and Facebook, we have encouraged fans to apply for enrollment at Veilmont. Acceptance letters went out last week. What the show will offer fans is a chance to have a replicate experience to our main character, Sophie, as she enrolls at Veilmont in search of the truth behind her brother's presumed murder. In the planning stages of this all, while Brent was working with others to write out the 35 episodes, they had Nina Barguil write out and design all of the ARG elements and bonus content so that when this whole ambitious project is ready to launch, there would be no stone left unturned, and they would be ready to bring viewers into the all-encompassing world of the show. Or in more simpler terms, also being on your phone. Remember when I said Verizon Wireless was a key part of the whole thing? Well, they came in as the big main sponsor, playing a quote, key role in the storyline of the series. Each short episode starts with a character from the show using a Verizon phone. But outside of the show, anyone who uses Verizon as their carrier received special previews of the series during the show's run, exclusive bonus material, and even some other extras that tie into the ARG elements the series had. Finally, I can experience Veilmont the way it was intended to. Right here on my Verizon LG chocolate. Plus, it was all a way to also have Verizon advertise their Vcast service plan that would offer a way to get more forms of media and entertainment directly onto your phone in a time where smartphones were nowhere close to what they are today. Because of all this involvement and their investment into the show, that's why Verizon is credited so high in the production chain for the series. While the overall story of the show and the mysteries within it not being anything too memorable, honestly, it does feel like the concept and hype around that was a whole lot cooler and more interesting than what the show offered. It's not to say that it's bad, but it's just forgettable, which in some cases makes it worse because there was so much effort put into something that you probably won't remember not long after you watch it. Maybe something like this would have worked more so today than it did back then, especially since short-form content has become such a large portion of the online video space now. Obviously, the series would still need to be entertaining to still work, but who am I kidding? I've seen shorts of literally nothing, and it's still getting millions of views and likes, so you know what the heck? Throw everything at the wall. Maybe something will stick.
Oh, Jesus!
What the hell?
But you just told me to do that, man.
It was a figure of speech, you dumbass! In the end, with nothing to do with the 35 short episodes, they figured, hey, we have nearly 90 minutes of media here, let's turn it into a movie, and thus Veilmont, the MTV movie, was born, and quickly forgotten about. Honestly, I think the title reads so much funnier as Veilmont, the MTV movie. It just makes it sound so much more important. At one point, there were talks to develop follow-up projects to this, firstly wanting a full-on TV movie to be made, not just combining all of the shorts into a movie, and then beyond that, having 5 half-hour episodes of a TV series. So there clearly was more that was potentially planned, but it never came to fruition. But let me know if you ever were into Veilmont and all of the ARG stuff surrounding it when it happened. I'd be curious to hear more people's thoughts on that whole thing. Well, the next time you'll see me talking about MTV, it'll be an unforgettable time. Cabs are here! Today, I stand in front of one of the most important and most iconic places in all of reality television. I present to you the Jersey Shore House. All right. But I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Later.